Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm your CEO, Elizabeth, and you're watching Blinx by Liz, where we turn Crocs into custom creations. It's April, and I thought this would be the perfect time to drop this DIY in honor of Autism Awareness Month. Not to mention, I haven't uploaded a Bling Croc DIY since 2023, so today this is the 2025 version of how I bling my Crocs with updated tools, what I would, what I wouldn't do, and answers to questions that y'all been asking. If you're interested in getting your own couture Crocs made, darling, then hit me up on blinksbyliz.com, and don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Before I do any gluing, sanding, or prepping, I always like to start by bringing my vision to life first. Sometimes I'll sketch out a rough draft on my iPad, especially when I'm given full creative control. It helps me to figure out the direction I want to go in and gives me a visual to reference as I build the design. Other times, I lay everything out directly on the Crocs. That includes the straps, patches, charms, and any trimming I think I might want to use. If it can sit on the shoe without glue, I'm placing it. This step is very useful because it's like bringing the vision to life in my head, whether it's digital or physical. It's a soft preview before I commit. Now that I've got my layout mapped out, I'm moving into the prep phase, starting with sanding. I use a simple drill I picked up from Walmart a while back. It was around $15 to $20, super affordable, and it gets the job done. Just remember, it's still a power tool, so be careful not to overdo it. You don't want to scuff up the areas that won't be covered with glue or stones, especially around the edges. That smooth finish on Crocs can turn matte if scratched, and it definitely will show. Now, as I go throughout this process, I'm going to start answering some of the questions that y'all have asked, especially the ones that come up a lot in the comments or if anything has been asked in my inbox. So let's get into a few of those while I finish prepping. First question, do you sand the back of the straps before gluing? Yes. Anytime I plan to add glue, I sand the surface first, including the back of the straps. But if I'm using fur or not adding anything in that area, then no, I'll just skip it. And just a fun fact, when I first started, I was actually using a nail drill that came in an acrylic nail learner kit I got for Christmas. That was actually my first drill, and it worked pretty well, especially for smaller and detailed areas. But I eventually stopped using that one because I wanted to save it for when I really started learning how to do nails. And yes, that's something I'll eventually bring to the Blinx by Liz brand, so if you stick around, you might just see that unfold. Anyway, after I went and bought my own nail drill from a beauty supply store, it was around $30. You might be able to find a cheaper one at another beauty supply store or even on Amazon. But this one gave me more freedom to practice without risking my original set. So now when needed, I do actually use two drills. The nail drill for tighter edges or when I need more control, and the larger Hyper Tough drill from Walmart for sanding the main surfaces of the Crocs. If you only have one drill, that's perfectly fine. Just take your time and be intentional. These are handmade pieces, that's why I call them couture Crocs. The more care you put into your prep, the better your results will be. Once the sanding is done, I like to go in and wipe the Crocs down. I use a 91% alcohol, the kind you can grab from Walmart. And no, it's not because the Crocs are dirty or anything. I just find that this strength works the best for prepping the surface. It helps remove any leftover dust, oils, or residues so that the glue has a clean surface to bond to. Some people prefer to use alcohol wipes, and others might even wash their Crocs in the sink, which is perfectly fine. Crocs can get wet. I just like to use the alcohol method because it's quick, it dries fast, and it gets the job done without soaking the Crocs. And while we're still in the prep phase, I also like to go ahead and wipe down the back of any patches I plan to use. And I use the same 91% alcohol to wipe them down just to clean off any oils or dust that can mess with the glue sticking. And depending on the quality of the patch, you can scuff up the back of the patches lightly with sandpaper. Just be careful because most patches are made with thread and stitching. So if you scuff too hard, especially with the drill, you could damage the patch or cause the stitching to become undone. So if you feel like you need a little texture for grip, just stick to the sandpaper and always give it another quick wipe of alcohol just to make sure it's clean. Alright, so now I'm adding the charms. And even though I'm not showing the patchwork in this clip, I use a similar method when applying both. When it comes to the glue, I actually use two types. Gorilla Glue Super Gel, the one with the green lid, and E6000. For patches, I usually go with Gorilla Glue Gel because it dries fast and holds strong. But there are times when I layer both glues depending on the material I'm working with just to make sure things are extra secure. To help avoid any glue dripping down into the croc holes, I like to plug them using charm backings. This is completely optional if you don't like to plug your holes. However, if you do, I do sell these pre-prepped charm backings on my website, blinxbyliz.com. And once I've added the glue and placed the patch or charm, I use small clamps to hold it down while it dries. These are just basic clamps you can grab from Dollar Tree, Walmart, or wherever you shop. And I prefer to use clamps because if I use my hands while I'm wearing these gloves, this glue dries super fast and it could cause your gloves to get stuck to your charms or your patch, which will ruin it. Now, getting back into the questions that you've asked, do you just pop the charms in or do you glue them in? I actually do both. I like to apply a little glue on the back of the charm before popping it into the croc hole, and sometimes I'll even go around the base afterward with glue just to make sure it's sealed. Next question, what if the charms don't fit in the hole? If I really like the charm and it won't fit, I'll take an X-Acto knife and carefully slice the charm backing so I can glue it flat. But please be careful with this if you decide to do this. I've cut myself doing this before. Use light pressure and take your time. Another question I've seen asked more than once is, do I sell charms? Right now, I don't sell any charms. I mostly buy mine from Amazon. Sometimes I'll browse sites like Etsy, AliExpress, or Alibaba, depending on what I'm looking for. But listen, the Blinx and Blinx by Liz means that I'm always off into something new. That's kind of the whole vibe of my brand. I stay creating, exploring, and evolving, and I take y'all along the way during my journey. So right now, I'm not selling charms, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be this way. Down the line, that may change. If you want to keep up with the newest drops, updates, or when I do start selling things, make sure you follow me on social media. I'm all over at Blinx by Liz, or you can check out my website, blinxbyliz.com. I don't always post on YouTube consistently just yet, and that's because I work a regular 9 to 5, so I fit these videos in where I can. If you stay connected on social media, which I'm more likely to be there instead of YouTube, you'll always be the first to know. While you're watching, be sure to show me some love, like, comment, subscribe, share if you need to. Let's not keep this creativity a secret now. Now time for what I would call a hack. I've had a few people ask me about how I go about adding letters to my Crocs. I'm using the charm bracelet and letters that were made for an 8mm charm bracelet. Instead of gluing letters down individually, I place them on a charm bracelet first, then I trim the bracelet so it doesn't look like a bracelet at all. No loops, no holes, just a clean, solid piece that holds everything in place. This gives the letters a nice backing and way better security than just glue alone. I use Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel here too, and of course I clamp it down to allow it to set just like I do with my other charms. Now I'm moving into adding my trimming. This rainbow style trim was something I picked up from Amazon. I'll drop the link in the description if you're interested. Since the stones in the trim are rainbow, I looked for a section that had more red in it just to match the rest of the Croc design, but I still wanted to incorporate the autism awareness colors like blue, green, and gold. So this trimming gave me a little of everything while still keeping red as the focus. Now when I go in, I normally add the top of the trimming first. I'll measure out how much I need before cutting the trimming, and then I cut it off, that way I can glue it down. Then once I get to the trimming that goes around the Crocs, this part you may see is a little bit different compared to my previous videos. If you've watched my older DIYs, I used to say it was easier to cut small sections and place them around the Croc, but now that I've done this for a while, I don't really do that anymore. I find that method more tedious. These days, I prefer to trim all the way around the Croc as one full piece. Once everything is placed and glued, you can always go back with a pair of tweezers to clean it up. Most of the rhinestones or pearl kits come with those small tweezers already anyway. That actually brings me into the next few questions that's been asked, which is, what is the best glue to use for blinging Crocs? I found that there's really no one-size-fits-all answer. It depends on your materials, environment, and what you're trying to attach. When I first started, I used to work with Aleene's jewelry glue because I felt like it held well on metal, but over time I stopped using it. Now I mainly stick to two glues, Gorilla Glue Super Glue Gel and E6000. E6000 has become my go-to for most of my work. It bonds well, dries clear, and lays flat as it cures. And when I need something to hold quickly, like when I'm working with patches, I'll reach for the Gorilla Glue Gel. That fast dry makes a big difference for detailed work. I've also been asked, is E6000 glue toxic? Here's my take. I haven't had any issues with it, but I still take precautions. I wear gloves, goggles, and sometimes a mask, especially if I'm working in a room with low airflow. If your space isn't well ventilated, crack a window. Just be careful not to create too much air or temperature change because that can affect how glue cures. Now I'm moving into adding my rhinestones and pearls. Everything I'm using here came from Amazon, and I'm doing a mix of reds, blues, greens, and golds to tie in those autism awareness colors. I usually just go with the flow in placing them. There's no super strict pattern that I follow. I let the layout build itself, which is also a little bit different from what I may have said in previous videos. When I first started, I was literally a beginner, and I recorded these DIYs to show other people that you can do it because I'm doing it. And at this point, I have about 2-3 years of experience. So what I believe I taught you at first was called the honeycomb method, which is where when you use the same size stones and you kind of can build a pattern, which creates what they call honeycomb. That you don't necessarily have to use on each and every pair that you do. I found over time that when you use different size stones, it creates more of a textured design, and I just think that it pops a little more. You can use all one size if you would like. There's no wrong or right way to do it, but I find that variety brings a nice classy finish. Wanted to remind you, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that like button for me. Comment if you have any new questions. Share this YouTube with anybody that may be thinking about becoming a bling artist, especially with Bling Crocs. And don't forget to subscribe so you can keep up with all of my latest videos. Here you see me outlining my patches with rhinestones because I feel like it gives the Crocs more of a finished and defined look. You don't have to do this. This is completely optional. This entire video honestly is optional. This is more of an instruction guide if you want to use it. But still add your own touch of creativity to it so the design can be yours. But what I like to do is just add the color of rhinestones that the outside of the patch is. So this particular patch I'm working with is a green heart and it has a green outline. So I'm going to add green rhinestones to the outline. Just like on the blue heart, you see there's a blue outline. And over on the other shoe, you see that there is a white outline because those patches had a white outline. So this is just my way of adding a little bit of pizzazz to the shoe. And I'm using what they call lash cleaning wands. When I used to be a lash artist, this is what you would kind of use to kind of go through people's lashes and clean out their lashes, kind of make sure no lashes are stuck together. If you have the precision tip, then that'll work even better. And some people even put their glue in a glue applicator syringe, which you can find that on Amazon too. Is really inexpensive. Always remember, do what works for you. That's probably the biggest thing that I've learned over time is do what works for you. And while I'm going about that, I'll go ahead and answer some more questions, which the next question says, do you sell Crocs? I don't keep Crocs on hand, but yes, I do make custom Bling Crocs by order. So if you're interested in getting your own pair made, just visit my website, blinxbyliz.com, and submit a custom order request. I do require a deposit up front since each pair is handmade to your vision, and your deposit is also needed because that's what I use to purchase your pair of Crocs. So this is how you'll get your own pair of couture Crocs, darling. That brings me to my next question. It says, do you have to use real Crocs? Not at all. I prefer to use real Crocs because that's what I started with and I trust the quality, but you can use dupes from the beauty supply store, thrift stores, or wherever you find a pair that works. Just make sure you prep the surface properly before decorating. Here's another question. It says, do you spray anything to seal the stones or pearls after you're done? Nope. I don't use any spray sealants. I like to preserve the natural shine of the stones and pearls, but if you want to try a sealant, that's totally your choice. Just make sure you test it on a small section first. So now I'm finishing off the Crocs by adding to the straps, and for this part, I'm actually using a scrunchie. This is something I just recently started doing once I figured out how to make it work, and I love the look that it gives. If you want to know exactly how to do it, I do have a DIY tutorial on my YouTube channel that shows you step-by-step how to add the scrunchies to your strap. It's a quick 5-minute video, so definitely check that out if you're curious. That brings me to the final 2 questions that I've been asked. The next one is, do you have a tutorial on how to add fur to the insides of Crocs? I do not. I actually don't line the Crocs myself. I buy fur-lined Crocs instead. But if you're wanting to add fur to the straps, I do have that tutorial that I just mentioned, and that's exactly what I did here. And my last question, how long does E6000 take to dry and cure? According to the label, E6000 takes about 24 hours to dry and 72 hours to fully cure. So that being said, I always let my Crocs sit about 3 to 5 days before they're worn or packaged, just to make sure everything is set properly. Good things take time, especially when you want them to last. And voila, we have our Autism Awareness Couture Crocs, darling. And since it's April, Autism Awareness Month, I want to give a special shout out to everyone living with autism and to the families, friends, and loved ones who support them every single day. You are deeply loved, seen, and valued. The world is better with you in it. Your perspective is powerful and your creativity is unmatched. Here at Blinx by Liz, I celebrate all kinds of expression, and I want to say thank you for being exactly who you are. And that's all I got for y'all. Make sure to follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, and Pinterest. I'm at Blinx by Liz on every platform. And you can place an order for your own custom couture Crocs if you fill out the inquiry form on my website. Or if you have your own project in mind, you can fill out the get a quote form and I will get back with you as soon as possible. Blinx means that I'm always off into something. So if it's creative, custom, or cute, send it my way and let's make it happen. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and of course subscribe, especially if you have any questions or if you want me to do any other DIYs. I'll be back with another video as soon as I can. Until then, stay creative and hit me up. Bye.